Morning, my name is Reverend Oli Preston from St Peter's, Halliwell, bringing you another little thought for the day. Today, as we continue through Luke, coming to Luke chapter 5, verses 1 to 25. Getting now into the start of Jesus' ministry and the start of this passage, which I encourage you to go and read if you haven't had a chance yet. Luke 5, 1 to 25. We kick off with Jesus calling his first disciples. And as I was reading through this and thinking about what jumps out to me, actually it was very quickly that I came to a point where I felt like God caught me and spoke in. Jesus was standing beside the lake and the crowd was pressing in on him. And as the crowd was pressing in, he saw two boats and asked the fishermen in them if he could pull away from the crowd. And I know that it maybe seems a little cliche, but that to me it felt immediately a little bit like an image of social distancing. He was in a boat, but he was stepping out away from the crowd. But the bit that really got me was that having gone out into the shallow water, Jesus sat and still talked to the crowd. That he took some distance, but kept on engaging. And it feels like through things like these videos, through our social media, through our Zoom services, we've been taking some distance but still engaging. We've been keeping that connection, and that there's some goodness to that. Jesus was able to teach and speak to the crowd. He was able to continue his ministry at a distance. But Jesus doesn't stay in the shallows. It says that when he'd finished speaking, he said to Simon, "Put out into the deep water and let your nets down for a catch." The challenge that I felt there is that it feels at the moment there's a risk of staying in shallow waters. We've been pushed by this health crisis into totally new territory. But the risk is that we stay in shallow waters, that we do everything at a distance but keep doing the same things, that we struggle on through, we keep in pretty close connection. In fact, I think I probably had more phone conversations in the last week or two than I had in the previous month. We've been keeping up contact, and that's good and that's important, but there's an opportunity at this time also for us to push out into deep water, for us to really take a step beyond everyday life, to almost treat this as a time of retreat, as a time to step into deep water, to put down our nets spiritually and in our prayer lives for a deep catch. Jesus and the disciples go out and they go into deep water, and while they're there, they have this amazing encounter where they realise who Jesus is, that as this enormous haul of fish comes up, Simon turns to Jesus and says, "Lord, go away, I'm a sinful man." He realises who it is that is in the boat with him. And that's my prayer for myself, that in this time I will take the moments to step away from the shallow waters, to step away from interacting with people at a distance, and to dare to press out into the space that might be more challenging, that might be more uncomfortable, that feels perhaps more disconnected, but in that disconnection to make space to really go deep with God. I just want to close with a few words from a fantastic book, Out of Solitude by Henri Nouwen, about seeking the places of quietness and solitude. And he looks at the example of Jesus as a great example of this. He points out that in the lonely places that Jesus sought out, Jesus finds the courage to follow God's will and not his own, to speak God's words and not his own, to do God's work and not his own. It is when Jesus seeks out the lonely places, when he goes to those places, that's where he enters into intimacy with the Father. That's where his ministry is born. I want to reflect on this lonely place in our lives, somewhere we know that without a lonely place our lives are in danger, somewhere we know that without silence words lose their meaning, that without listening, speaking no longer heals, that without distance, closeness cannot cure. Somewhere we know that without a lonely place, our actions quickly become empty gestures. I want to dare to press into the deep waters and to find that lonely place with God. And I invite you maybe to make space to switch off at the end of this video and to seek that place, the deep place with God. God bless.